morning, summertime friends. It is early Thursday morning, and I am so grateful that you're here to join me for Thankful Thursday, week 2. For today's focus, it'll be a short one. I wanted us to reflect on certain key stories in your life that you always carry with you that makes you filled with gratitude anytime you think about them. So I'm going to share a story with you to explain what I'm talking about. And at the end, what I'd love for all of you to do, if you have your thankful journal, please feel free to write it down and document your own memory of gratitude. So grab your cup of coffee and let me tell you a story. So not so many years ago, I was traveling back home to the Boston area from Honolulu, Hawaii. And at the time, my grandmother, my mom and dad, they were all still alive. And so I took the family back with me so that we could all have some quality time with our wonderful relatives. We had an amazing vacation. And one of the things that I was cherishing about this trip was that my grandmother was getting the true features of dementia. And she could still recognize who I was, and she could still do some basic functions around the house. But it was clear that the next time I would ever travel home, I probably wouldn't be able to have that moment of her knowing who I was, probably. So this particular trip, my grandmother, one thing that she loved doing as a gift was she loved to make jam. And in Hawaii, she would make something called lilikoi jam. Lilikoi jam is passion fruit, but a passion fruit that grows on the vine. It's delicious, it's sweet. And so one of her gifts she made for me to take back home here to Massachusetts was a jar of jam. And every birthday and every Christmas, I would get a jar of jam. That was her expression of love, which she would give to us on our birthdays, because she made it from scratch. She made it from the fruit that would grow in her garden. And so it was a labor of love. So on this trip, she gives me her jar of lilikoi jam. And it's time to go, so I wrap it in bubble wrap so that it's protected for the travel home, and I put it in my suitcase, and we're off. So we get to the airport, and we're going through TSA, and you all, for those who travel, you know how fun TSA is, and as long as the lines are, we have to be grateful. They're there to protect us, right? So I took that with a grain of salt. And we get to the security, and to put my bags through the screening, and my bag gets pulled. And so I was like, oh, that's so weird. And turns out I put the jar of jam in my carry-on, not my suitcase. And I put it in my carry-on because it's a small jar. It was like this big. But the guy took it out and he said, what's this? Because it was all wrapped in bubble wrap. And I said, oh, that's my grandmother's lilikoi jam. It's priceless to me. And he said, well, I'm really, really sorry. This is too big for it to go in your carry-on due to TSA regulations, and we're gonna have to throw it away. And I just felt my heart sink into my stomach, and I was so sad. I was like, no, please don't. Is there any way we can get into the suitcase? And he said, well, what time is your flight leave? And I gave him my flight, and he's like, yeah, we're not going to make it. The luggage is already going to be on the trolley thing that takes it out to the plane. And I was just, wretched, just crushed. And that entire 13-hour ride home from Honolulu to Boston, I just had this sad cloud over my head thinking, that was the last cherished gift that my grandmother consciously would ever be able to give me again. And it was specifically from her garden and made with her hands with her love. So we get home, and it's early in the morning, because if you ever fly back from the islands to the East Coast, traditionally it's an overnight flight. So we land, we're exhausted, we finally get home at some ridiculous time in the morning and start to unpack. And I open up my suitcase, and there, it makes me so happy to share this story, but there on top of my belongings was my jam. And this guy, he made it happen. He was able to get that jar of jam into my suitcase for me to be able to cherish my last jar from my grandmother. And my heart was filled so completely with gratitude that to this day, you can see how this memory triggers it. And to this day, I save the jar that had the jam. But yes, the jam went in my belly. But this is one of the most cherished prizes I will ever have in my life from my grandmother, who sadly passed away last Thanksgiving, but she was almost 100, so good for her. She lived a long, long life. She forgot who I was pretty shortly after this jam story, but I still remember her. And sorry to get emotional with all of you on this Thankful Thursday, but these are happy tears because I had the gift from a stranger who, in a very busy TSA line, understood my story and put that jar of jam in my suitcase. So, my wish for you is that you now reflect on a story that maybe it'll bring some tears to your eyes, maybe it won't. I don't know, I'm crying. It's 6:10 in the morning, and it's raining outside, but it's a good rain because it's been a heat wave over here, and I'm grateful for the cool down. But as you think of my story about the jam on this Thankful Thursday, write down or simply reflect on a gratitude story that you have, that you carry with you throughout the years, because every time you think and reflect on that moment, it brings you immense joy and gratitude. So with that, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Happy Thursday. And if you can, join me tomorrow, because my happiness project, I painted my primary bathroom. And so tying into my happiness mindset, Monday happiness mindset episode from a few days ago, I'm using the power of color to transform my space to a light, bright, calm, serene environment. Thank you for your time, everybody. Wishing you a beautiful day. Take care.